Thank you all so much for joining this evening. My name is Jo. I'm one of the directors here with 10 to 2. For those of you who don't know, 10 to 2 are a specialist part-time and flexible working recruitment consultancy. We've been around for nearly 20 years and we're pioneers in the part-time space. We still are very, very active in the part-time recruitment world with some wonderful, wonderful clients and some amazing candidates. Um, we are a small team who have all been there and done it when it comes to working full-time, part-time, flexibly all over the place. And we still practice what we preach today. Very, very passionate about making sure that businesses obtain the best and right talent while still offering flexibility for those who want or need it. So welcome. I'm delighted to be joined this evening by Kim, who is going to be taking us through the content of tonight's webinar. Kim is an expert coach in all things confidence within the working world, and she is kindly giving us her time tonight to talk about rebuilding confidence and finding clarity after a career break. Lots of people come to 10 to 2 after they've had a career break for one reason or another, normally quite a life-changing event. So it might be having children, it might be losing a partner, it might be caring for somebody for a period of time. It could just be a wild and crazy career change. But often that career break can leave you feeling a little bit off kilter, maybe not your normal confident self. So hopefully this evening, some of the content that Kim takes you through will give you some tools and some tips and some tactics to start rebuilding that confidence. She's not a magic fairy, unfortunately. She can't wave a magic wand. You're going to have to do a little bit of the work yourself, but she will give you some fabulous tools to get cracking with that work. We have got quite a lot of content to cover this evening, so we are not an interactive webinar, I'm afraid. However, there is a chat box at the bottom, and if you do have questions, you should be able to pop those into the chat box. And I will be tapping away in the background, either coming back to you or we will address those at the end. So the content should take us until about 25 to 9-ish, hopefully leaving 10 minutes for questions and answers. There is a lot of content to get through, so if we do run over and you do have questions, please don't worry, we will get back to you either directly if it's something quite personal or in a more kind of generalized Q&A document tomorrow. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Kim to take us through tonight's presentation. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you so much, Jo. So wonderful to be here again. And I just again want to reiterate just thank you to everybody that has just taken the time out to be in front of this space and this webinar and just giving yourselves the opportunity to absorb what will hopefully be some helpful information and tools that you can take away with you that'll just give you that added clarity in terms of your next step forward to get you to the place that you want to be with your career. So like Jo said, there is a fair bit of content. So I'm going to get started. Any questions, just anything that pops into your head, please use the chat box. And between us, we will get back to you. All right. So just to quickly give you very snapshot view in terms of who I am. So I am a self-discovery coach. I'm the founder of Full Circle Wellbeing. These are my two kids as well that keep me very busy. And I enjoy being a mom and a parent, but also, navigating work and, just the constant juggle. So I have absolutely been there. I know what it's like to be in that space where you don't really know who you are, where you start or finish, especially after a career break, and trying to put all your pieces back together again, which more often than not look very different to where you would have started before. So I have personal experience and I know how hard and overwhelming it can be, but with some really helpful tools and just a little bit of a different mindset, you can absolutely 100% find that thing that is going to spark you up, be right for you, will fit into your life and just be exactly what you need it to be. So we'll get started. So just to give you a little bit of context, just to really also emphasize that you are not alone being in this space that can be very isolating as well. So snapshot, what is happening? Um, Recent UK studies across the board, very much show similar things. 70% experience a loss of confidence when returning to work, something that most of us absolutely can relate to that have had a career break. 76% struggle to balance that work and family dynamic, specifically if you have kids or other responsibilities in your life that would have taken you out of the workspace to begin with. And 1 in 3 feel that their career has been impacted long term because of that break as well. And up to 90%, that's such a huge number, feel overwhelmed by the juggle of it all. So those are heavy stats. So really just to sort of reiterate again that you are not alone in the space, but there are absolutely things that you can do that will move you forward in the right direction. And it's really tackling loss of confidence, and also a shift in identity. Whatever that career break has been for you will have impacted you in some way or another. So your identity shift is a massive part of that, and also understanding what that shift has been about and who you are right now. And also there are competing priorities. Often when you are returning back to work, the juggle that you have in your life is looking more than likely a lot different than what you had before. There is a lot going on, and that's where that sense of overwhelm kicks in. How do I juggle it all? And then there's also the pressure to just have all the answers and to just figure it all out. Despite being in this really overwhelming space, we don't really know where to start and what the right answer is, or even what you want. And just knowing the answers, it's not an easy, quick fix. So these tools that I'm going to talk you through will hopefully help you to sort of break a lot of these overwhelming feelings down and realize that there are very practical steps forward that you can take. Okay. So, the first thing that I just want to cover a little bit is just the returner's journey back to work, which is a journey, and it does involve a few steps that lead you to finally finding that job and being in that work culture that you want to be in. That does take a few steps. And the first step, or the first stage, is when you actually start considering returning to work. Something will have shifted where you feel now is the time. Now is the time that I actually want to think about returning to work. And I just want to say that while I'm talking about this, I've got a little prompt here in the corner. So just something that you can reflect on gently just while I'm talking and going through the next few slides is, now that you are here and assuming that there is some kind of consideration returning to work, have a little bit of a reflection. Think about, for one thing, one strength, motherhood, or whatever life experience you've had specifically during your career break. What has that given you? It will have given you something, a strength. And then on the other hand, it's also looking at, really with some honesty, what is it that is also holding you back potentially? So what is one fear you have about returning to work? Just let that just sort of gently play around in your mind while I go through the next few slides, and I will return to that. Um, so the stage one, when you start thinking about returning to work. And then the next stage is, after that consideration, you start the preparations, and that's where the CV writing and the cover letters and the interviews and that whole preparation phase, which is, what tend to do so brilliantly. That is the next stage. And then the final stage is you've returned to work. And then that is a whole adjustment in itself. And, just really, you're there, you active, and that is actively part of your life. And that will take just a certain period of just getting used to as well. So that is another stage. And what I have found a lot with my clients that come to me is recognizing how important stage one actually is. so that the energy and the time that you are investing when you are preparing to go back to work is really done from a place of clarity and of confidence. Because often there can also be a knee-jerk reaction to go back to what's familiar, go back to what you know, to fill you know, fill the work gap in the easiest way you know how to do, which is often something that is familiar, thinking, well, I'm just going to make it work, because yes, I do have a lot to juggle and it's got to tick certain boxes, and there are going to be, certain motivators that are motivating you to go back to work, financially, for example, practical considerations. But by just giving yourself just a little bit of time to really consider what returning to work means to you, what you want it to look like. If you were to give yourself a moment to actually just think without all the practical implications, what you would love your work situation to look like, what would that look like? And looking at, okay, if that is actually what I really want, what can I do to get there? And that is where stage one really comes in. Um, so getting that clarity and getting that confidence about going back to work, it does just take a bit of time, and it does just take a little bit of commitment. Spending a little bit of time to just really look at where you are, who you are now, what your values are, what strengths you really want to, you know, focus on, and where you see yourself and how you want your career and your job to fit into your life as a whole. Just takes a little bit of time to just step back and not let that fear and overwhelm knee jerk you into very quick decisions that might just not be quite aligned to where you are right now and who you also are, and all that identity shift that I briefly mentioned earlier. Um, so where to start to give yourself the best chance for success and making the decision that is really right for you and for your setup and your family tribe and all of that. So these are some of the steps that I'm going to briefly take you through. And you will also walk away with a goal setting exercise after this that encompasses all of these steps that you can also work through in your own time. So this will just give you a little bit of like a bit of a taster in terms of what's involved. But going through these steps and again taking that time and commitment will really make the biggest difference to just change your headspace a little bit, change your mindset, and look at your career in a slightly different way. So you're really going for something that is really aligned with you on lots of different levels. So the first bit is actually formulating a bit of a plan. There's always a practical element to getting started, and I'll go through what that actually means. And then it's looking at, okay, so what does my career situation look like? Taking stock and evaluating where you have been, your experiences, where you are now, what you want, and also what work means to you. What are your drivers that are driving you to go back to work? What values are really important to you that are part of the workplace? And what are your strengths as well? And those two together will start giving you ideas and the dots so that you can join those up, and that's going to lead you down a certain direction. And believe me, the ideas do start coming. It's amazing. It's amazing, the flow. The flow is just, it's something beautiful to see. And once you start feeling the energy around, oh, okay, this, you're getting those creative juices flowing again. You're getting inspired by something, and this is just about you as well. It's just beautiful things can happen. And I see it time and time again with my clients as well. And then with all of that taking stock, it's also the mindset side. It's looking at your perspective and looking at limiting beliefs, looking at how to build your confidence. So, really, again, just really being self aware where your mind and your headspace is at, so that what you are thinking and how you are behaving because of that is really serving you, and it's serving you in the right way rather than doing the opposite. And then the fourth thing is also tapping into your resources. Most of us don't realize how many resources we actually have. available to us. And so it's really utilizing those, having those conversations, asking people for help, or upskilling if you need to upskill, is such an important part. And then it's also taking action. So this is just sort of a brief summary, and I'm going to go through each step in not too much detail, but just to give you a little bit of a taster where to start. And one of the first things with step one is setting yourself up. So, sort of, seeing this process, this stage one of, yes, I'm considering a return to work, actually thinking of that as a bit of a project plan. So, you want to get organized. So, you want to think about, okay, so what is your work goal? What actually do you want to achieve by going back to work? What would your ideal work situation look like in terms of how it fits into your life? What is your ideal work-life balance? And here you really don't want to hold back. You really want to consider, what would I love to have in terms of my career? How many days a week do I ideally want to be working? What would my hours ideally look like? Do I want to be in a workspace, part of a team, would ideally work from home? What does that work? All of that, this is your chance to really let go and really look at what your ideal would be. Because if you don't know what your ideal is, it's really hard to work towards that. Um, and once you have a broad outline of this work goal, give this project like a bit of a name to just really sort of set it in stone. This is your commitment to yourself and what you want your career to look like. And it makes such a difference because it's really putting legs to something that is actually really important and is of deserving of that time and attention. And then the third thing that you want to do as part of your setup is actually consider how much time you can dedicate at the moment in your life right now. So think about, your schedule across the week and all the different responsibilities and everything else that you were juggling. When in your day could you potentially, even if it's only for 20 minutes or 15 minutes, it doesn't have to be a whole hour, it doesn't have to be an overwhelming amount of time, little chunks more often are more manageable, and it's more, easier to fit it in between. And if you think about, mornings, I'm a morning person, and actually I might actually have like a 15-minute gap on like a Tuesday. You know what? I'm going to dedicate that time to this project plan instead of the million other things that you will have going on and are very easy to prioritize over this, but it's also recognizing that this is important to you and it deserves that time. So those are the things that you want to think about. And even where do you want to sit? Do you have a desk? Do you have a favorite spot? Do you have a coffee shop that you love to go to? Or do you have a favorite seat in the house where you can just really focus and zone in this time that is just for you, so that you don't have thousands of distractions and that you can really just make the most out of those little pieces of time that you have available to you. So that is sort of, a bit of a broad outline what step one entails. And then you want to start diving a little bit deeper. And this is where that step two, taking stock and evaluating, comes in. So you want to start diving a little bit deeper when you start looking at your work goal, what that really is made up of. So again, asking yourself, what is motivating you to return to work? Why do you want to return to work now? What value does work have for you? And what is your primary motivation for returning to work? And then alongside that, what would the practical implications really be of returning to work? What would that look like? How would that impact your everyday life? And then you also want to look at what work actually means to you. So if you think about what your ideal work situation looks like and how this fits into your life right now, compared to how your life has changed since before your career break, and how your priorities and your values and your outlook on what is important in life has also changed. So all of that needs to be considered when you look at, okay, so what does work actually mean to me and how does it fit into my life right now? So even mind mapping this and just getting it all out on paper, even if it all doesn't make sense, is such a great way to just start looking at, okay, this is why it's important. I hadn't thought about these practical implications. This is actually then what I'd like my work-life balance to look like, because this is what my life is like right now. And these are the other things that I find important in my life that I don't necessarily want to sacrifice potentially. Um, so part of the taking stock and evaluating section is really diving into what those motivators are that are driving you to return to work. So part of this is looking at your values, and the second part is looking at the strengths. Now, this bit in taking stock is looking at your values. So you want to look at your intrinsic and your extrinsic values. So intrinsically, how does passion or fulfillment or enjoyment of the day-to-day tasks or being creative or the collaboration, being part of a team or problem solving, sort of that work satisfaction element, how important is that to you? And this, this sort of pie chart is a great way to start identifying what values really matter to you. You might only have a couple, you might have 10. I mean, again, there's absolutely no right or wrong, but it's such a great way to really identify what is important to you. And also, if you look extrinsically as well, financial needs or prestige or the practicalities of commuting versus working from home, all of those reasons could also very well be important, and they also deserve attention. And it's looking at, from a scale of 1 to 10, how important they all are. And you can also do an exercise based on all the experiences and jobs that you've had in the past, how those roles and experiences have aligned themselves to what you find important. And you can also then look at, did those roles really work for me? Did I enjoy those roles or did I not? And then you start to see a pattern. And it's really, really great, powerful work to just identify what really matters to you and what is really driving you right now, which could also very well be different to what drove you to work and have your career before your career breaks. So it's also identifying that shift from before to now as well. And so along this line with working out your values, this is also a great way to identify your strengths. And this is using Edgar Schein's 8 career anchors. And Edgar Schein, he was an American business theorist and he was a psychologist, and he created this concept around career anchors. So, really highlighting core values and motivations that shape how us as individuals approach our careers. And then it sort of helps to give really great insight into what drives job satisfaction. And then that can really, really be helpful, especially in a stage like now, stage 1, considering a return to work, how to plan for your career in a more aligned way. So these 8 career anchors are the 8 that Edgar Schein identified. And I will send you a breakdown of all of these career anchors as well, alongside the goal setting exercise, because this is also a really powerful tool. And what you want to do is you want to identify what your dominant career anchors are. Might be one, it might be a couple. And it's really, really interesting to then go through an exercise where you track over your career what what job actually aligned with which anchor. And especially when you start working out, these anchors is actually where the best of me came out. This is actually where, yes, I actually enjoyed being more the entrepreneur because I love being creative, or autonomy and independence because I just, I rather enjoy working in my own way, in my own time, or, I love being a leader. For example, I really thrived when I was in that role leading that project. Or it's more about that work-life balance, and that the balance is your anchor because that is what is motivating you. So it's really, really great to actually go through this. So what you can do is you reflect on all your past roles and you identify what you enjoyed. And then you start recognizing some really interesting patterns. It's a fascinating exercise to go through. And you often find that you'll surprise yourself with what motivated you, what frustrated you. And also, we forget as well, life is busy and life keeps moving us forward, that we forget sometimes, like, oh God, yeah, that role just really didn't work for me, but that was then and this is now, and you forget to take that into account, or you find that, oh wow, no, that role, I really surprised myself and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So this exercise, where working through the 8 career anchors, you list all your past and current roles, and even roles that you might have had during your career break. Role is not necessarily just being at work, even being a mom or a carer, all of those are roles, and they all require skills in some capacity, strengths in some capacity, and it's really worth identifying that as well. So again, that leads into my initial gentle reflection question as to what strength are you bringing with you, especially from, say, your career break? There will be something. So listing all your past and current roles and identifying in 2 separate columns the aspects that you enjoyed or you actually found demotivating. And then you compare those and align them with the 8 anchors. And then you start getting a pattern. And this is where it gets really interesting. And then you start revealing your dominant anchors. And then you combine that with your values that you also would have started identifying, and it really starts creating a really powerful picture. And you will start feeling the bubbles of excitement, I can tell you. So that's why identifying space in your week, just a little bit of time to do just a little bit, little chunks all the time can make the biggest difference. And you'll be surprised how far you can get in figuring out some of these answers that right now might feel that you'll never find, or just feels overwhelming. So with all of that, you also just want to take stock with what your current blocks are. We all have them, especially the way that we talk to ourselves or our fears are really coming up. So this is just, a list of some of the things that you might identify, from that juggle that we mentioned, or family commitments, and especially, say, as a parent going back to work, there's often that mom guilt that plays a role as well, or, where you just feel out of practice, you feel that maybe you're out of touch with new technology, you worry about maybe having enough energy, so all of these blocks that you just want to identify, so that you can just be aware when you could potentially be holding yourself back instead of moving yourself forward. Um, and alongside this is another sort of thing to look at, which very much identifies with that list, is some of those beliefs that you might have without even realizing it, that could just be holding you back instead of really motivating you in a very helpful way. So it's really looking at separating what you strongly believe to be true that is not actually fact versus what is actually factual. So anything that we strongly believe is not fact, it's just something we strongly believe. So if you even strongly believe that you are out of touch with technology, that is not fact, that's just something that you believe. And again, this taps into resources that can help you to overcome a lot of those blocks in different ways. Um, and also just a very, very quick exercise, because again, I know time is very tight, but these 3 pictures, I would love you all if you could just quickly, you don't have to, tell me across all 3 pictures, but each of those 3 pictures actually have 2 different pictures in them. And I just wanted to use that as just one way to show that any one thing can be seen in a lot of different ways. So across all the 3, it'll be very interesting to see how many people can see both pictures across the three pictures. So
People want to pop into the Q&A or the chat box, what they can see. Sorry, we've got a few other questions coming through just as I'm asking. Just pop in the chat box what you can see, because I find this whole exercise fascinating. I'm not going to tell you what I can see in the pictures, but have a go at seeing what those pictures say to you. So we've got a rabbit and a duck. We've got a
Yeah.
bird, a woman, and a naked woman. Lots of people can see the
Mhm.
rabbit and the duck.
Yeah.
Girl from the back. Uh,
Yes.
Lots of people seeing a naked lady as well. You get your minds out of the gutters, you terrible lot. Um, an old lad looking forward and a younger woman.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
as you
That's
can
it.
see, exactly as Kim said, there are multiple ways of interpreting those images. Everybody's getting,
And
there's
oh
no questioning the naked lady.
no. And also, because I don't know if it's really come up yet, if anyone's identified the last picture with the naked lady, that yes, most people see the naked lady, is actually also two stick figures dancing. Ah,
Nobody
ah,
got that. Nobody got
no.
that. Oh, yes, the third one is two people dancing. Someone got it. I do apologize. There we go.
Well done. So again, just remind yourselves that there is always going to be a different way to see something. Always. Your perspective can always be shifted slightly. And if your perspective is not helping you, then it's always worth looking at what's going on and shifting it slightly. And this is, also where the work that I do with my clients can really be of use, because that is quite an overwhelming space to be in. But another way to do that is also by starting a brag file. And it might sound a little bit uncomfortable, but just having a beautiful little book that every time you look at it just makes you smile. It might just have the color or a design on what you like, and just a little journal where at the end of the day you just brag about yourself a little, even if it's just for 1 minute. And you say one sentence and you say one thing that just highlights something about your day that you know you did well, highlighting a skill or an achievement or anything that just makes you shine brighter. Because we forget about the strengths and the skills and the value that we are adding to the people around us each and every day. And it's so important to build on that and recognize that it is absolutely there. It just needs to be seen. And even a small little thing while you're working on this project and you're going to move yourself forward, and it's going to feel that you're moving a little bit out of your comfort zone, while you're doing all of that, even just having something small like a brag file can make the biggest difference. Um, and then almost lastly is just tapping into your resources. So you are going to have them. Think about your resources internally. You are going to have strengths that you have forgotten about. I can guarantee that. And also think about the kind of person that you are, your ability to focus or be patient, or situations where you've been brave, or, they are going to be there. It's again, and that's where the brag file comes in. So you can identify those and actually tap into them because they are there to serve you. And then also your external resources as well. You are going to have people in your life that are there to help you, whether it's contacts or somebody in an industry that you would love to actually learn more about, or a friend or a family member that might have something that can just help steer you in the right direction with just a bit of this conversation, or some help by connecting you with somebody else, and also upskilling, contacts, networking, and also creating a bit of time, even creating that time consistently across your week. That is a resource, and it will get you really, really far if you just find it and then commit to it. Um, and then lastly, it's about taking action and taking everything that you've then done through steps 1 to 4, and then developing your 7 stages of a well-formed outcome, which will make more sense to you once you get the copy after this webinar. So I know that I've spoken so much and I've just dumped a whole lot of information um, into this more than half an hour, but hopefully it's just given you some inspiration and a little bit of insight to know that there are tools there for you. They are there. It just takes a little bit of time and a little bit of commitment and knowing that you've got everything in you to create the career that you want. It's just finding it. And yeah, if you have any questions at all, or if you'd like to learn more about how I work with my clients, please do get in touch. I very happy to have a free clarity call, and we can have a chat. So please, yeah, do get in touch if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kim. I'm always in awe whenever you talk because I just find everything that you say so fascinating and so relatable as well. So thank you ever so much for sharing your wisdom and giving us your time. Um, Apologies to those of you who've been trying to use the chat box. I know it's disabled. There is a Q&A that you can pop your questions into. Some of you have started to fill that up now. Before I go into the questions, just a couple of housekeeping things that I forgot to cover. Yes, a copy of the recording will be shared tomorrow or possibly Friday. So you can watch, you can pause, you can make notes, you can do all of the things that you need to do. As Kim said, she's very generously providing a work through document for you based on her 7 steps. Which you can print off or you could use online and go through. We will also have a Q&A document with the queries that you're asking now and previous queries that we've had through that we think might be beneficial. Lots of you have been talking while Kim has been presenting about the stage 2, so the practical part of finding a job. And Kim very nicely made a little plug for 10 to 2. Well done, doing my job for me. 10 to 2 have lots and lots of other webinars. We do record and publish all of our webinars, and we also run an ongoing program. So if there are specific areas that you feel a little bit lost at sea around, so it might be writing your CV, it might be navigating the modern job hunt because things have changed, it might be interview skills. We pretty much have a webinar that covers anything and everything. One for the attendees of tonight that might be particularly relevant is a webinar called Mind the Gap, which is specifically designed for people who've had a career break and how to position that in their, not only in their application, so their CV and cover letter, but also in their elevator pitch and in their interview style. So please do feel free to dig around in the archives on the 10 to 2 website, and hopefully you'll find resources there that will answer lots of your questions, or just get in touch with somebody at the office. Any of us will be more than happy to help you and guide you in the right direction. So we've got 5 minutes left to dive into some of these questions, and there are some good ones that I think having Kim here will be helpful to answer. So one question: staying motivated feels hard. I totally get this. Job
Mm.
hunting and re-establishing yourself in the working world can be really, really draining. And motivation can drop off the edge of a cliff quite quickly. Kim, have you got any tips on how to keep that motivation going?
Yeah, that is sort of where that stage 1 plays quite a role in terms of not letting your fear get in the way of trying to envisage what you really want, because then you know that where you are putting your energies is actually dedicated to achieving that. And that's a big part with staying motivated, because as soon as you find that thing that really fires you up, that in itself starts creating energy and motivation in and of itself. So finding those gaps and then realizing, oh, there's that person I could speak to. And then before you know it, creative ideas start coming up and opportunities that might seem unrelated start coming into your life. I see it time and time again, but it's really being clear about what is right for you, where you see yourself. The more you can see yourself in a particular role, in a particular job, that you can feel it almost as if you are right there in that moment. That is where that motivation will really sort of have that long staying power, so that when the hurdles do come up, and they are going to, that you will have more motivation and just a better ability to overcome it because it's something that you know that you want and you will figure out a way to jump over that block.
Absolutely. What great advice. Another thing that we're noticing in the current job market, and it is a particularly difficult job market at the moment, so I do
Mm,
feel for people entering the job
yeah,
market
yeah,
at the
yeah, yeah,
time,
yeah.
um, finding ways to feel more in control of your own search. So exactly as Kim said, really making sure that you make this almost like a self-care project. This is a project all about you. This is something that you're invested in. This is something that you are giving um, time and importance to. And doing that pre-work to your job search will allow you to be more specific about the jobs that you're applying for. And if you get rid of that scattergun approach, that I'm just going to dive in and apply for everything approach, the overwhelm won't hit you so hard. The
Mm,
burnout, job search burnout won't hit you so hard or so soon. And therefore you'll be able to keep that motivation going for longer. So there's a real practical application in today's job market to that stage one that Kim talked you through, in making sure that you are being selective with the jobs that you apply for as well, and not giving your energy out to a scattergun approach to your job search. So we've had a few questions. Some of them are quite personal, and to those people, I'm going to pop my email address into the Q&A. Please get in touch separately, and we can have a slightly more tailored conversation about your personal situation. Um, a couple of people have asked for a bit more information about Edgar Schein. I know you've said that you're going to send out some more information along with your 7 steps document. So hopefully that will cover the queries around Edgar Schein. A great question here: how to incorporate being a mum as a positive into your elevator pitch. So I don't know if you've got any
mm.
thoughts on how to incorporate that in the practical stage of the job search.
If you think about being a mom, it requires so much, it requires planning, thinking on multiple levels all the time, never mind, the emotional, intuitive side as well. You caring for humans. There are so many incredible strengths that come from being a mom that can absolutely be part of your elevator pitch. 100% resilience, multitasking, planning, and all of this is often done when moms are feeling really rugged and, lack of sleep and not necessarily with, all the just the energy and the sleep and everything where they would normally have it, yet they are still doing such an incredible job and also problem solving, like on the spot, creative problem solving to just handle situations, which we all know as parents, they can be quite tricky. But like just as a mom, there are endless strengths that you can 100% relate to a work situation.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with everything that you said. The other way you might want to flip it and to think about how it might benefit the employer. There have been multiple studies carried out on working parents or returners who work part-time patterns or who work flexibly, and the productivity that they're able to achieve within those reduced hours,
Mm,
because they know they have to be out the door at a certain time. They know they can't work past a certain time, so on and so forth. We don't have time necessarily for
mm,
lovely chit chats in the work canteen or whatever it might be. So you can guide them towards statistical evidence about the
yeah.
productivity of people who are fitting in work along with their other job, if you like. We have unfortunately reached our time limit. I am really sorry for those of you whose questions that we haven't been able to address directly. As I said, we will either come back to you with contact information, or you can dig around in the 10 to 2 website, or we will cover your queries on our Q&A. Thank you, Kim, so much for your time this evening. Everybody, I'm sure, is going to walk away with some actionable actions to help them with their return to the workplace. Um, And thank you all for joining us. We know that your time is precious. We really, really hope that you've taken something away from this evening. As Kim said, if you want to know more about how she works with people on an individual basis, please do feel free to get in touch with her. Her contact details will be shared in an email that will come out to you in the coming days. And if 10 to 2 can do anything to help, then please do feel free to get in touch with us as well. But for now, enjoy the rest of your evening, guys. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you
Bye.
so much. Bye.